I think talking about Repricer is an endless conversation, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I would say every single person has a different point of view of what works or what doesn't work. Us and users, I would say we know really little about what happens behind curtains and how really is the algorithm, the metrics, whatever is taken in consideration. I think you guys as
Yeah.
a Amazon app creators, whatever, have way more access to that kind of data. The major thing that I'm seeing with people is the way that they try to configure it at reprices. Is like they think as soon as they hit the repricer on, their store will explode it in sales and then they will become rich. You know,
Right.
when the
Right.
reality is not right there. So, on your experience, if you can bring me down the best way to set up that initial reprise, what would be the way?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'll share my screen and we'll do this live. Okay, so this is a real live account that we use for internal testing. So let's assume we just logged in for the first time. We haven't done anything. I'm going to walk you through like end to end. So the first thing, we want to go to marketplaces. We want to hit connect marketplace, walk through that flow. Takes like a minute. It basically just gives us access to start importing your listings. About 10 minutes later, you'll have all your listings ready to go. So first step, connect your marketplace. The second step, create our strategies. And there's a bunch here, but don't worry about that. We're going to assume there's nothing here. There's really three you want. I want to move zoom here. So the first one, and I kind of think about this in phases. I think we talked about this in our last conversation, right? You have this life cycle. So there's like three phases of that life cycle, and we're going to build three strategies for like basically one for each stage. So when you first come into stock, you're probably conservative on your pricing, right? You care more about profitability than sales velocity. So we want to default to AI here. So we're going to choose Maven. And you basically, have two types of strategies. You got AI and you got rule-based. We're going to create both. So we're going to start with Maven. You can watch this nerdy video of me explaining how Maven works if you'd like. And then we're going to just choose how do we want to set our min values. You know, a lot of people are going to use ROI. So I might do 15%. I'll tell Aura to auto calculate the maximum price for me. That way it's dynamic. And I can see an example of what that looks like on a handful of my listings in here. Then advanced, you can leave this on. This basically will tell Aura to auto unsuppress a buy box, meaning lower the price to reactivate it. There are cases where you don't want to do that, but for the most part, you do. One thing that flies under the radar is this guy up here. So in your settings, there's a preferences section. You can choose basically a currency. So whatever you purchase your inventory in, that's what I want you to set it to. What's nice about this though, is let's say I am selling in Canada and I buy things in Canada, I'm probably going to change this to CAD. That way I'm keeping everything as localized as possible. But for now, we're going to keep it at USD. We're going to name this. So I might do this. We basically have three levels, right? So I would say level one, that's our first strategy. That's all there is to it. That's the most complicated strategy, and it takes that little.
Dylan, sorry. Quick question there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people come to me like, "Hey, Eric, what should it be my ROI or my minimum price?"
Yeah.
Which is a really tough question for me because I always tell people it all depends on you, right?
Yeah.
It all depends on your business. Now, if I were to set, some time ago, it was a popular strategy of 0 to 100, meaning
Yeah.
put a minimum of 0 and then a maximum of 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend to do that, or you rather tell people, hey, put a minimum price on the items? What would you say is the best way there?
Best way is to do it in the strategy. I don't recommend manually setting this per listing, and I'll show you guys how to do that. With Maven, you can set this to 0% ROI and be okay. I've tested this in many accounts, including this one. It's going to be fine. So it's not going to tank or anything like that. Rule-based is different. Rule-based, it matters a lot more. So, and I'll walk you guys through that. So let's go to level two. Level two, we want to start in, for context, we have two levers: sales velocity and profitability. These are the only two things we're kind of manipulating. Maven's going to find the balance of both. As time goes on, we want to lower our profit margin and increase our sales velocity because we want to move the inventory faster. So this first version of that, we're going to choose the buy box targeting strategy. And there's a lot more settings in here, but I'll walk you guys through all of them. So what we're doing is we're targeting the buy box itself and then telling Aura, here's what I want you to do. So what I want to do is I want to price below the competition. I might want to match. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So I might say match the current competition. If the buy box is suppressed, I want it to lower it by 2 pennies until it reactivates the buy box. That's a good thing to do. And then what I might want to do is change, actually, I don't want to change anything here. A lot of our defaults are exactly how I would set it. So when you go out of stock, you're going to go to your max price. That's a good thing to do in case you do replenish. And basically we're just going to say, listen, if it goes to the minimum, it goes to the minimum. If that's where we're not driving it down in this example because we're matching, but we're willing to go that low. So that's it for this section. Maintenance, we're going to change this to disabled. Maintenance is interesting. Maintenance, basically consider it like a strategy within a strategy. What that means is whenever we are actively in the buy box, the maintenance section is telling Aura what to do. So as an example, let's say we're in the buy box at $25. That sounds good, but if the next lowest seller is at 32, we would want to raise our price, right? So I could do that. I could say raise price. I could change this to 1 penny. And what would happen in this case? If we're at 25, the next lowest is at 30, this would take us to $29.99. Just go straight shot there, right? So this is kind of helping basically protect profitability. But again, if we're trying to move things, I may not do this. For this one, we're going to leave this here. I'm probably going to do 2 pennies though. As we get to the liquidation, you'll see the similarities between that strategy and this one. So basically we're going to say, listen, if we can make a little bit more money, we will. But we're really, again, prioritizing sales velocity. So mins maxes are very different when you're talking rule-based. We can't dynamically set the maxes once we go the rule-based route, which is a very different system. So to do this, I still want a minimum. I'm not really willing to go to 0 quite yet. So I might set this at 15% as an example. And this should be conservative, right? If you expect to get 30%, I would still recommend you to look a little bit lower just so there's more range. Doesn't mean we're going to go there, but we want more range. Maximum, I tend to leave this blank. I'm going to show you how to override some stuff here in a bit once we create these, but setting your mins based on the cost makes a lot of sense. Setting your maxes based on your cost makes no sense. So I'm going to show you guys how to manually do that because it does make sense to have max values. So they are useful and it's a little bit more manual, but this is like the exception, right? You're kind of thinking about this like a funnel. Like 80 something % of your inventory is going to be on Maven. And then you're going to have these exceptions and you can deal with them one-off. So it's not super time consuming. So we're good there. Again, we can see an example here. If I did put in a max, we can see what that would look like as well. But I'm going to leave that blank. So Aura's not going to calculate it. I'm going to manually set it. So then we're going to name this guy. We're going to do level. So we got 2 out of 3. Last one, very similar, but we're going to be more aggressive. So I'm still going to choose this buy box targeting strategy, but I'm going to change a few things. At this point, I am going to guaranteed reprice below. Now on level 2, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it depends on how aggressive you want to be. Matching at level 2, totally fine. Level 3, we definitely want to be in the buy box as often as possible. So I would actually leave it the way that it is here. I'm not going to change anything. I am going to change the maintenance section. I'm going to disable this. I'm basically going to say that section doesn't exist. Just keep doing what you need to do. So if I am the lowest in the buy box, I don't care. I still want the buy box. I want to move it. We're actually going to take this to 0%. We're willing to break even. And this is a case where it will probably go to break even. But that's the point. We're becoming more aggressive. We're prioritizing sales velocity over profitability. And then again, I'm going to leave this empty. I'm going to name this level 3.
This will be your exit, your exit strategy, meaning like this is like buy inventory. Like I'm out of this.
Yeah, this is like I'm done. I want my money back. Exactly. This is like kind of your worst case scenario for the most part. Okay, so we've got these 3 strategies. And by the way, we're publishing, I think tomorrow, a blog post on all 3 of these more in depth with a video. So don't feel like you have to take tons of notes. And honestly, you can reach out to support and just say, hey, I want the 3 recommended strategies. We'll add it to your account for you. So we have these. So right, we always want to start with level 1. If time's going a little long on inventory, I'll go to level 2. And then a week later, I might go to level 3. So here's why this matters. Let's go take a look at a listing for a second. We'll take a look at this guy. Okay, so this is the listing page. So settings is what we really want to care about. Aura needs 3 things before it can reprice. It needs repricing enabled, it needs a strategy assigned, and it needs a min value. Now, if your strategy is auto-calculating your min like we set it up to do, that's kind of taken care of for you, right? So you'll notice here on the strategy we're using, min is going to be 33.96, max is being auto-calculated. So let's take this particular listing and walk it from level 1 to level 3. So level 1, we'll go ahead and default to that guy. Level 1. So right now we're using Maven. Awesome. Let's say time goes on a little bit longer and I'm like, you know what? I want to be a little bit more aggressive. Awesome. We'll go to level 2 and something's going to change. Max price. We're not setting this. So I need to manually set this, right? So what I might do is I might click on this buy box card, look at all the offers. We're the only one on the offer, but imagine there's more here. And let's say I'm like, you know what? 50 is probably the highest that's realistic. Awesome. I'll jump in here, change that to a 50, hit save. Now we're good. We go to level 3. Let's say it's another week or 2, and I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to liquidate. Let's move it. That max price is going to stay there because you decided that's what it should be. Now you can always override the mins and maxes. So if this min, I'm like, that's too high or too low. Let's say I want to go below it. This is break even. I'm like, you know what? I'm willing to go to 30. Awesome. I'll click edit, type in 30. I'm going to get this little yellow notification. It's just letting me know, hey, your strategy is set to do this for you, but you're telling us exactly what you want us to do. And if I want to remove it, I hit delete, hit save, it's back. So at any point, I can override any of these things, even on Maven. So if we go back to that Maven strategy.
Since you have a limitation on how many Hyperdrive can you use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on your level of
Your plan.
Yeah, your plan. Would you recommend to focus on using Hyperdrive on items that you are trying to go for level 3, or you would recommend it for level 1? What would be your point there if you were only having 5 possible Hyperdrives available?
Yeah, I would consider it for, I would urge you to not even think about the levels when you're thinking Hyperdrive. Hyperdrive is really that speed boost. So it's really what listings have a lot of competition. Like this listing has just me. So I mean, it doesn't hurt it, but if I'm limited on credits, I'm probably not going to use it here. I would rather use it on a more active listing with other sellers on it.
So will be the shoes of a Hyperdrive will be like, hey, I want to be competitive on this specific listing, which it could be the liquidation or not, but it's that listing that is like a lot of active sellers that you want to be on top of the pricing change. That would be the best use of Hyperdrive.
Yeah, exactly. So wherever there's a lot of competition, so it could be at level 1, level 2, or level 3. It's just wherever there's a lot of competition and a lot of activity. Yeah. So you notice here where this is Maven auto setting the max. I can still override this and say, you know what? Because we're not going to show you what it is because it can change second by second. So you can change this and be like, you know what? I want 45. Perfect. You can override that too. So all the automated stuff, you can say, actually, in this particular case, I know exactly what I want. Great, override it. So what's nice is by default, it's going to handle most of the situations. But in the event of an exception, which there always is, you can override any of this stuff. And let's say, you know what? I'm like, you know what? I really want this to go to $42 and I want it to stay there. I can add a manual price. So I can change this to 42. It's going to take a few minutes here because this manual does not use the Hyperdrive system, but we'll see it update because I turned auto refresh on. Now, the moment you have a manual price, none of this matters. Or it says, listen, you told us 42, that's where you're staying.
So that would be a hard rule, right? That would be a hard rule, unbreakable. They will stay there no matter what.
Won't change it. Yeah, and actually you see it's starting to update it now. We will not change this. Now, sometimes you might need to do that for an afternoon, something along those lines. I can actually go in here, again, delete it, hit save, And now it's just going to go back and be like, what do we need to do? So so what's nice is the way we have this built, it's very hands-off in a lot of cases and very easy to use, but there are ways for you to gain more control when you need it. Actually, I'm going to replay this. It actually might give us the buy box at 42, which is cool.
Can you tell me what's that replay button for, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so this is only for admins. So this is only for our team. Basically what's happening is this is allowing me, if I'm doing testing like for support, I can replay the most recent offer change information. So let's say I change the strategy and actually it should go somewhere else. I can make those changes here, and instead of waiting for an organic notification, I can just force it to replay the last one. So, and actually, if I go here, so every listing has memory, two types. Regular listing memory is what we call replay. We basically store the most recent change notification we got from Amazon. That's how it works. Via the API, we get a notification, hey, something changed. We then process it and send back an update. We store that most recent one. It lets us move faster. There's another version called AI, and actually you see we actually just pulled the buy box at 42, which is cool. We also have a different version called AI memory. So this is, again, just an admin thing. You guys can't see it. That's why that's only for admins. But basically, it's a deeper level of information on the listing that we store that Maven uses.
Dylan, I got a question for you on that. A lot of people ask me, and there's something that I don't know about.
Yeah.
Is this data coming straight from Amazon, or this data is coming from a third party like Keepa?
No, just from Amazon. Keepa is actually very expensive as a developer, so we don't pull their data. It's just straight from Amazon.
So all the data that I would say most of Repricers use is straight from Amazon. So
yeah,
it's Amazon information that you guys are receiving, processing, and eventually translating to whatever it needs to be translated, right?
Exactly. Yep. And we're doing that just 24/7.
So,
now another thing. So let's say you got your strategies created, you got your marketplace connected. If we go back to listings, you can basically customize how you view things. This is so important. Some sellers care about some things and don't care about others. So you can actually change what you see and where you see it, right? So if I want to see the marketplace first, I can drag that up and that will change. So I have this set up because there's an interesting issue here where like there's a lot of data, and this is a table, right? So a lot of people want to avoid this horizontal scroll kind of thing. So what I tell people is, listen, if there's things you don't care about, just remove it, right? Like, so the listing is this guy right here. It's got the ASIN and the SKU. So I remove that.
Actually, what you're giving me is interesting because I didn't know you guys could do that. I see, I see you have the inventory age, 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60.
Yeah.
So it's something that you can pull out right on the app without needing to go into the Amazon information.
Yeah, just right there.
The pricing, cost. Okay, you can pull out costs out of, okay. So there's
fees, everything. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. So what I recommend people to do is pick the things you care about. Here's what I do. I want to know, what listing am I looking at? How am I doing? I really don't care about the marketplace. It's just a nice shortcut if I want to go straight to the listing, which is cool. But if you don't need to do that, you can remove it. I want to know how many I have, and I can quick cover and be like, cool, I've got 24 fulfillable, blah, blah, blah. I want to know the current buy box, my price. I want to then be able to control everything here. So if I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I do want Hyperdrive on. Boom, I move on with my life. If I want to override that max again, great, done, move on, right? So everything you can manipulate on the listing page we were looking at, you can also do here. I can change to level 2, be done, right? So you want to be able to move as fast as you can, really. And like even like on the rank, you might care about rank. I kind of don't as much, at least in this account. So I might remove rank. Where's that guy at? Rank. Yeah, that's gone. So now I have, this is everything. I don't have to horizontally scroll at all because I've only have in my view everything that I as a seller care about. And what's cool is these settings are per user. So if you have a VA who you invited to create a user, you don't share this. They can create their own view and it won't override yours.
Let me ask you something on that sense. How many VAs are you allowed to invite, if you don't mind me asking?
Depends on your plan.
Okay.
So early stage and essential has 1 user, plus has 3, and then pro has 5.
Okay, so the $97 should have 3.
You'll
That's
have 1.
Oh, okay. The
Yeah, you
97,
have 1.
the 197 is when you
Has
have
3. Yep, exactly. Yeah, so if you need to be doing that, awesome. I'm not going to show you everything, but it is in here. And actually, I'm not going to show you because I think this is only for admins. Never mind, never mind. There's some cool stuff coming your way. I can't show you
do
everything.
that. You cannot do that. I know Halloween is come, but you cannot offer candy and reject it.
Don't worry, I'm going to give you some candy probably tomorrow, if not on Tuesday. You got some cool stuff coming your way, I promise. It's going to be Q4 related. So
okay, that's great. I have a major question when it comes to the workflows,
yeah,
which I believe is something similar to automations, right? That's what it is.
Exactly.
Could you give me a sample on how to use or what to use it for, if you don't mind?
Yeah, for sure. So let's create the main one. So workflows are like you have trigger events, so like what makes it occur, and then the actions you want to have happen. And they're kind of Lego pieces, so you can kind of create whatever you want. So the main one that people use is the new listing. So the trigger event is a new listing gets imported into your system. So we'll choose that. We'll hit continue. And then we're going to add some actions. So what I might do is I might say, well, every listing needs 2 things, right? I need to enable repricing and I need to set my strategy. So what I might do is do set strategy. I'll add another action, which is toggle repricing, and choose this to enabled. And so now every time a new listing comes into my account, it's going to assign level 1 and enable repricing. Now, Maven, our level 1 strategy, is automatically setting the min values based on cost. So if we don't have a cost, we're not going to touch it. So it's kind of, there's some built-in safeguards. But if you use one of the 3 integrations we have, the moment we import the cost, it's ready to go. So you can automate a lot of stuff in here. Now, the only thing to keep in mind, because we're choosing Maven here, Maven does have limitations depending on how many lists, or basically like we limit how many listings you can apply Maven to depending on what tier you're on. So this could cause some problems where like it might attempt to do it, but actually it's going to fail because you're over your 50 or 5 or whatever you have. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then I could basically just hit continue. We'll get a preview of it and just, I can name this new listings. And then I can just enable this. So every time a new listing comes into my account, those 2 things will occur. Now, what some other people have done, and I don't really recommend this anymore, and I'll explain why, is we might do a schedule, so a time of day, and I have a bunch of options here. So let's just say I do every 3 hours, and I'm going to do it every day of the week, and then I'm going to say, pause repricing. And actually, let's make this more complicated. I'm going to use a filter block, and I'm going to say filter on strategy. So only listings using level 2 and level 3. So only listings using those 2 strategies. I'm then going to pause repricing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for 10 minutes, go to my max price. Now this is super important. I need to drag this over under the filter block. Otherwise, if I left it this way, it would happen to everything. So I'm basically going to say every 3 hours for listings using level 2 and level 3, take me to my max and hold me there for 10 minutes. Now, a lot of people are used to this as the yo-yo strategy. The reason why I don't really recommend this, and we may have talked about this last week, this is not optimal. If you're not using Maven, I would rather you use this than not. And there's a reason why I only put this on level 2 and level 3. Maven will do this for you, but not on a set frequency. It understands that now at this very moment on this particular listing is the best time to raise my price. So it's not just going to do it every 3 hours, every 1 hour, what have you. It's thinking in real time, should I do this now? And if so, I'm going to do it. So on some listings, it could do it every 5 minutes. On other listings, once a day. It really depends on each individual listing. So I really wouldn't pair this type of workflow with Maven.
This would be then like getting some automations done on the dynamic repricing.
Yeah.
That would be the most proper way to use it, I would call it, right?
Yeah, basically you can use that kind of workflow on any rule-based strategy, but I would
Okay.
not apply it to anything using AI.
All right. There is another. Sorry to ask you a bunch of
Yeah,
questions.
no, hey, this is what I'm here for.
Every time I talk to you, is a lot of things for me understanding, and probably for my people to understand it too. But mostly it's like I'm the student here. Um, there's this pricing activity, which is
Yeah,
interesting because what it does, as far as I know, is track every single change that you have on the
yes,
page, right? Now, on my
exactly.
eyes, this is just data, right?
Hmm.
Um, if I were to ask you, hey, Dylan, give me a insight on how can I interpret this data, or what can I do with this data
Sure.
now that I know it? What would you say it is the a way to
Yeah.
see it?
Yeah, this is like raw data, right? But there's a few ways. One, if like where I'm at now, if I just go to pricing activity, I can see everything. And there's a few key things here. So like this icon means it used the replay system. This icon means that I'm using Hyperdrive. And obviously, like, am I going up, down? What's happening? All the skew. Now I can click into any of these and get a general idea as to why it occurred. Now, with Maven, I can't give you all the answers because it's way more complicated, and we actually do these by hand. So, which one was not using Maven? All these are using Maven. We like Maven. But basically, the rule-based ones, it's easier for us to explain exactly what occurred because it's a basic algorithm. Maven's way more complicated. But if I click on one of these, it'll let me know when it happened, on what SKU, where did I go? Okay, I dropped my price by 74 cents. I used Hyperdrive, so I did it fast. And your price was changed to 205 because there are no eligible competitors on this listing following your strategy settings. So Maven decided, you know what, I need to lower the price a little bit here for some reason. Okay, let's do it. And so you get a general idea, what strategy am I using? What's my offer position? Repricing method. This is really the components inside of your strategies. We're letting you know, hey, this is the setting that triggered to make this price change. So rule-based, this is easier to do. Again, Maven's way more complicated. Um, and this is very important. If your mins and maxes change, you need to know what was true at that time. I've had users where they raised their min by, let's say $10, and they're going through a pricing activity and they go, well, my min's at 30. Why'd you price me to 25? That's below my min. But if I come in here and I pull up this exact pricing activity, I go, actually, that's not true. This happened before you raised it. So what was true then was this was the min, this was the max. And this lets you know, hey, did you win the buy box when that occurred? And now this is, again, just admin, but this is what we get to see. This is all the data.
Yeah, you're looking exactly at the raw data, what happened on the what event was triggered right there, and why it took the decision of what it took the action. Basically, on
Exactly.
your eyes, eventually, because of admin, you will see the action that took Maven to take that action. Basically, it's
Exactly.
like, why did I
Yeah.
take
So
this action? Because all this data that I got from Amazon.
yeah. So we basically take all this code and we turn it into this. So it's a little bit
So
easier.
basically, it's like, hey guys, reverse engineer the code that you just saw and create your
Yeah.
own.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Now here's a good way to use this. Let's go back to that Lodge product. If I scroll down, I have this performance section, right? So I can see how's my price going. So we can see where we raised it to 42 manually. We can see it's been jumping around here. I can see how many price updates have been made, how many units we sold, and then our buy box percentage.
Let
So
me
let's say I want to go. Yeah,
try
go
this.
ahead.
Sorry, bro. A bunch of questions. I was gonna have a question for you. That buy box percentage is based on a 30-day period or what?
This is whatever period you're looking at. So up here, it's going to default to 30, but I could change it as an example to last day. And all this data is now going to be last day. So now I can see how it's jumping around.
So this is amazing for me because this would tell me, hey, if I want to see in the last 7 days how often I had the buy box of this specific product, I can go
Yes,
down there and say, hey, I had the buy box, whatever percentage it is.
exactly.
Cool.
Yep, exactly. Now, keep in mind, this is not like pure buy box ownership. Actually, I take it back. It is. It's just there's no perfect way to do it. So we have to calculate this ourselves. So what I'm trying to say is if you look at another tool and it tells you a different number, that's very normal. everybody has to decide how they calculate it. No, Amazon doesn't give us that data. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, that's a good tip right there. So basically, you're telling me every single app has their own formula on calculating how much you want on that percentage buy box. It's not an Amazon data.
Correct. So like the way like Keep is going to tell you, very different than what we're going to tell you.
This is the kind of thing that I love to talk to you. Like, stuff that, like it's not public and most people don't even know about it.
Right, exactly. Now, I turned on this auto refresh a second ago. Let me explain what that is. So if let's just say I have this off. I refresh the page. This is as up-to-date information as when I loaded this page. Now, if I go grab coffee and I come back in 20 minutes, this data hasn't changed. So if I'm like, you know what, let me look, how am I doing, blah, 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 let me make a change. That's 20-minute outdated information. So what we can do, I can hit, Command R on my keyboard. I can, definitely click refresh. But instead, I want to turn on auto refresh. When I do that, every 5 seconds, this page is checking with the backend, so our server, and saying, hey, do you have data that I'm not showing the user?
How fast?
And if
5 seconds?
Every 5 seconds.
So basically, you don't have to do the refresh button. Whatever you're seeing, every 5 seconds, actual data.
Yep.
I have a quick question here for one of my friends. He's asking, Eric, is it possible to get Restock or any information to help us manage Restock more easy? Report or something like that?
Not in here, but what I have coming for you in November, yes.
Okay, so it's something there. He asked another question, the Jojo strategy, which is basically you say, hey, Jojo is built in with a Maven, which Maven would do this amazing thing that he will actually determine when is the best way or when is the best time to raise up those prices.
Yes.
How long is the optimal time to stay at that price and when to go down, right? That's what I
exactly.
Last time, right?
So it knows when to go, where to go, how long to go. Instead
of what we usually do, that is go this price for this amount of time and then go to the regular one.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're doing it way more complicated, but you as the user, you don't have to care. We're just going to do it. So this is really good. Now, I want to circle back to pricing activity because let's say I want to go deeper. There's these 3 dots here. If I click that, I have a few options, right? I can look at the offers, which we already saw. I can go to the Amazon listing, or I can go to pricing activity and it's going to pre-fill the search for me. So now I'm only seeing price changes for this listing, which is super important. So now I can say, okay, well, what's happening? Okay, it's actually jumping 25 cents here and there. Awesome. And then, oh, what happened here? I manually did that. I manually updated the price and then it readjusted itself after I removed the manual price back to where it thinks it should be. So super important. And if we go back to this listing, I want to see if I can show you guys Hyperdrive and auto refresh. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to raise the min here to 41. So we're just going to watch and see how long this takes, right? So we just got, or it's just like, cool, I'm below the min. I need to raise it. It shouldn't take more than 10 seconds here. So we're either going to see it just change and be done, or it'll be pending and then update really, really fast here. And of course I'm demoing, so watch something break.
I'm basically looking at the watch. I'm looking at the price. I'm looking at the...
Now we have Automax, so that might cause a problem here. Let's just see. I'll refresh. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do it. I'm gonna take it here. Okay, well now it's wanting to act up. Of course it does. Every time I go to share my screen, it's wanting to act up. But basically, this will update because we're using Hyperdrive really, really fast. It's just not doing it for whatever reason at this moment. My guess is because we're currently in the buy box and it's not wanting to pull it.
Okay. Basically, like you say, Hyperdrive, the best use scenario is the most competitive listings out there. Meaning
exactly.
a lot of sellers, a lot of price competition, pretty much. That's what it is.
Exactly. Yep. As the number of competitors on a listing increases, that should be a signal to you that I should be using Hyperdrive.
Okay, I got a $1 million question. I think I asked it to you last time. I just want to go back on it. I have my human family like it's noisy. Okay. One of the question is a lot of people ask me, brother, those changes from $40 to 39.99, is it that accurate to be a buy box winner effect?
So basically, should you prioritize being in the buy box that often?
More like if I'm on $40 buy box, being on the -1 cent, would that guarantee or be some effective strategy as a developer that you would consider
I
like,
see.
hey, that would make sense, or is something like that just people lose think
Yeah.
about?
So no. So this is why we like Maven, because on some listings, I might be able to match you and us rotate the buy box and be fine. On other ones, I might need to let's say I reprice below you by a penny and I don't pull the buy box. Well, a rule-based strategy will just leave you there because there's nothing to do. You technically did what you told it to do. So what Maven will do is it will say, okay, we tried 1 penny. That didn't work. Let's go to 2. Did that work? No, let's go to 4. And it'll add 2 pennies every single time until it realizes, okay, for this listing, for that competitor, I need to be 10 cents below them. But then if another competitor on that same listing comes on and I match them and they match me, I'm not going to be 10 cents below them. So when we're talking like Maven's going to run a bunch of experiments and understand what works against every single competitor. And it's then going to take that information and say, okay, well, I know that if I go here, you're going to go here. So what do I need to do after that? And that's where things get interesting. For example, if I know you're always going to match me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to match you, rotate the buy box to me, raise the price up while I'm in the buy box to the optimal price. Your strategy, if it's set to match me and match the buy box, you're going to follow me up. But if I know that you're going to reprice below me, my behavior is going to be different. So it just
Yeah,
depends.
that's the friendly thing that you tell me. But now it's amazing that basically the buy box will act differently per seller. So
Yes.
every action that you take against any seller could be a different reaction. That's what I'm getting from.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it's not something like a straight line. You could
No.
get different responses from every single seller. Which
Yes.
is interesting. That's why you need AI to be able
Yeah.
to. Hey, let me try
Yeah.
to get this and
Well,
make it happen.
yeah. When I say, we try to help with complexity and speed. Speed, Hyperdrive handles that, and then complexity, Maven handles that. This is part of that complexity. Is like, it's not that clear cut. It's not just, well, always reprice below it by a penny and you'll win against everyone. That's not true. There are cases, and Amazon's a good example. Amazon on one listing will let you rotate the buy box and not reprice against you. On another listing, you might have to be $5 beneath them to pull the buy box. And yet on another listing, still Amazon, they don't care how low you are. You're not getting the buy box. And so you have all these things that it's because they vary so much, it's really hard to create a single rule strategy to say, just always do this. That's just not how this works.
Yeah, which is nice. It's nice to get it clear from somebody that has the data from Amazon, because some people think for whatever reason they say, okay, if I do the 1 cent or 1 penny below, I will guarantee get that buy box. At some point, there were some people telling me within 2 or 3% of the buy box price, you should get the buy box. Is that true?
Not really. Again, average probably, but my whole thing is why default to 2% when 0.5% would have worked on listing A, right? And this is where people get stuck. They try, and sometimes it makes sense, but a lot of people want to take these simple rules and apply it to everything and not understand that, yeah, probably it will work, but how much are you giving up because you can't be optimizing every single listing? Because if think about it this way, in an ideal world, what would we have? We would have a strategy that was built for every single listing, and the strategy would change its settings itself every few seconds. You can't do that. But what you can do is you can take a step back and say, well, what if we use AI to create a model that could then actually go and run its own experiments to understand what is real and what actually works here, and then use that information. And so I think we're getting away from a world of simple answers and more just let technology handle all the crazy complexity and then remove that complexity from the end user. So like the yo-yo strategy we've been talking about, what if you joined a repricing tool and you never hear the term yo-yo? Think about like language matters, right? I read a tweet that was like, language dictates our reality. So if you go into a new industry and you don't know any of the terms, well, you don't know what terms to think about. You don't know what terms to research. You are limited. But in our case, you can never hear the term yo-yo strategy and still get the benefits of it using Maven. Think about that. That's where we want to get to, where we can say, you know what, we're the experts. We know all these hacks and tricks. Let us do that for you.
Don't try to come up with something that this tool will be able to predict when is the best way to have something happening to optimal price that we discussed it before. Like, hey, the optimal price is dictated by behaviors and data, and not dictated by, hey, I think at 6 p.m. I should raise my price. You know,
right?
It doesn't work quite like that.
Yeah.
I have one last question here. We are almost running out of time.
Yeah.
My family would not be so happy. But I know you cannot definitely explain us how you make Hyperdrive work, because that's something that you develop, only you have. But you will be able to give me something close on an explanation of what it is. Let's call it like that.
Yeah,
what would you say?
Yeah, so we've always had instant repricing. Most softwares do. Some don't give you instant repricing because you don't pay them enough. I think that's ridiculous. At minimum, you should have instant. Instant does not mean instant, though, and I'll explain why. Instant is true because in our system, what I can control, it is instant. But when I submit a price update to Amazon, they have to receive it, process it, check it, make it live, and then come back to us and say, that's done. On average, that's 1.5 to 2 minutes per listing, per update. Q4, that could be 10, 15 minutes. So, oh yeah, it's crazy. So it's a marketing hack to basically be like, well, what we can control, it is instant, but it's not. It's
Honestly,
not.
you're not lying, because it's instant in my system. I didn't say it was on Amazon.
You know what I mean? But everybody just kind of has understood that and be like, okay, cool, I get it. You can't control that. But we found a unique way to do this. I cannot explain how we do it. I mean, I can, but I won't because nobody else has it and it's awesome. But basically, we can do that full round trip in less than 10 seconds. So there's a certain type of way we do it, and we can only go up to 50 listings in parallel max. So each tier has its own credit system. The highest one is 50. And I've had people be like, can I have 150? No, you can't. Because as the number increases, so the number of listings we do this with increases, the speed exponentially slows down. So at 50, I can do less than 10 seconds or within 10 seconds. At 75, it goes to like 30 seconds. And so you can see as I increase this, the number slows down even faster, and eventually you hit 1.5 to 2 minutes anyways. So we had to find a balance to say, well, what's the maximum number we could do it at with the speed? Because we could do it faster, technically, with less than 50. But what's the difference between 2 seconds and less than 10 seconds? Not much. Now, could we push it to 25 seconds and that still be awesome? Maybe. We got to see. But right now, 10 seconds, 50 listings is the max.
Okay, so in other words, you guys notice like, hey, I could show you on the 200 list Hyperdrive, but we're gonna go back to the 2 minutes, so it makes no sense. We lost the Hyperdrive.
Exactly. Yeah,
like,
it basically is irrelevant.
It's a regular reprice. It makes no sense to
Yeah.
put it on or put it off. At this point, you realize, hey, within 50 per account, we're still able to manage to do it within 10 seconds range,
Yeah.
meaning I will send information to Amazon. Amazon will receive it and give me back a confirmation say, I updated your price.
Yes. And within 10 seconds.
With that, usually happens within 2 to 3 minutes. Right?
1.5 to 2 on average. Yeah, it kind of depends.
So, okay, 1.5 to 2, that's the industry average. Let's call it like that.
Yep.
So basically, what you do is basically you like, wow, 90 seconds faster than everybody else all the time.
I can think about it this way. I can reprice you 12 times in the span your competition can update once. So think about here's a good analogy. If you and I are competing, you submit a price change. I say, great, I'm going to respond to it. I submit a price change. You're going to respond to mine. So you say, cool, Dylan's at 25. I'm going to go to 24.99. You submit it. Now the timer kicks off, 1.5 to 2 minutes. But what happens if 10 seconds later, a third competitor says, I'm going to 29.84? Well, you can't respond to 29.84 until the previous one is processed. I can. You see what I'm saying? So in theory, your competition is repricing in the past.
So you fighting a price that is already being changed by somebody else.
Yeah. Right. I mean, think about it, right? Like you can have 50 price updates occur across all your competition in a minute and a half all day. And so a lot of people don't realize, they think they're reacting to every single price change. That's not true. The moment I submit a price change, I am pausing because it needs to be completed. And then I'm saying, now that it's done, what do I need to do next? So I might only be responding to every 3 price updates. It's not every single one because the time doesn't work. But if with Hyperdrive, I can now actually reprice to all those.
So that makes a lot of sense on that scenario where eventually what you're saying is the inside part behind the curtains, like what people does not understand.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, now you're trying to reprice against a price that I already sent another price, I'm already in, but you're still thinking about this price. By the time that you get my actual price, I can do that again, and you're still thinking a price that that's amazing. That's really interesting. I think that's as far as I know, Aura, the most crazy thing about it, right? Like also the secret sauce, the amazing kickoff. Dylan, I wouldn't take more of your time. I hope I can invite you some other time to another call.
Yeah, would love to.
It's been amazing. If somebody have a quick question before my family try to kill me, that would be now is the time.
Tell them I said I'm sorry.
Something for the people of my community. Can I make that claim here? Because there's some people that is not in my community. I invite a couple of people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, same thing as last week. Happy to extend the trial for everyone. So instead of the regular 14 days, we'll do 30 days. There's no code or anything like that. Just when you create your account, when you start your trial, just reach out to support in the live chat in the bottom right. There's a blue button. Just say, hey, Dylan mentioned on a live that I could have a 30-day trial. My team knows. I've already let them know that, and they'll get that applied for you guys.
So guys, I put my link on the chat. Dylan is paying me like $500 per user. I'm kidding, guys.
I like how the number keeps going up every time we talk.
Next time you'll be sorry, Eric. I cannot join a call.
$10,000, man.
I put the link. There's like 4, if I'm not mistaken. It's actually 3, but they have the essential, which is for new sellers that sell less than $10,000. So I did a video on YouTube telling the price benefit. Come out to Aura, be the best ones for $27. You get way more than you get for a regular $50 or $25 on competitors.
Yeah.
So basically, you guys have 30 days. If you guys are send a message that you were on the call, usually it's 14 days, but you can extend it to 30 days. I really love the last conversation with you that you told me, basically, Eric, I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm like, go use it, do your experience. If you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, no hard feelings, keep going. Actually, send me feedback saying, hey, I didn't like this. I will try to go about it. That gives me a lot of, good feeling on working with you and being able to talk about Aura, because it's like, hey, try it. If you don't like, no hard feelings. You don't gonna ask for my credit card or anything, right? That's the thing that you say. So basically,
Yeah, no credit card.
Yeah, try it. You like it, you keep it. You don't like it, don't
Tell
worry.
me. Listen, if you don't like it, send me an email and tell me why.
Somebody's telling me here that she was asked for a credit card.
So if you see a banner at the top that says, hey, you can add a credit card, that's just a nudge. You don't have to do that. That's just letting you know, hey, you're in a trial and you haven't added a payment method, but you don't have to add a payment method during the trial at all to use it.
Basically, so, okay, Maria.
We try to make it easy for you to do so because we would like you to.
Yeah, as a owner of a system, eventually the marketing part will be there for you to add the car. But eventually it's up to you. It's not like you cannot use the trial if you not add your car. It means you can keep using your trial. You don't need to add your car. It's just a easy way to, hey, you can just add it right now. I'm sorry about the background. Like I say, Cuban family.
Oh, you're fine, man. Yeah, bro.
Dylan, I don't gonna take more of your time, guys. There's the link. Do you mind if I upload this video to YouTube?
Sure. Yeah.
With you? Okay, probably will upload this one to YouTube. So thank you very much, brother. I appreciate your time. Enjoy your date and be safe out there. Enjoy everything.
Likewise. Hey, all right. Enjoy the wedding. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.